Hey everybody, it is Monday. It's Encouragement Monday. It's the day after Easter. I'm sitting in the car and I'm waiting on Hannah. She's doing something very unique for the first time. She is buying groceries. She wanted to do it by herself. She's got a list that she wants to get. She's going to try to do more fruits and vegetables. That's what we're working on for her. And she wanted to do it. She wanted to do everything from start to finish, getting it in the car, acquiring it, paying for it, taking it home, putting it up, all that. So we're excited about that. But I thought I would do a video while I'm here. So Psalm 116:15 says, "Blessed in the sight of the Lord is the death of one of his godly ones." And what that's talking about is when someone dies and they're in God, then they get to go home and be with him. And the reason this is coming up for me today is because we were allowed to sing at a funeral of a dear man that we never even knew. Hannah and I were invited this weekend to sing, and just hearing his family talk about him and his pastor talk about him, there was no doubt about this man's heart for God. He loved God. He might not have been someone who said exactly the same thing, the bold thing all the time, but he lived a legacy of grace and generosity. His grandson told wonderful stories about him. He was a truck driver. They talked about how instead of going off and doing things he shouldn't have been doing, he would go home and go to bed, and be with his wife, or he would call his wife if he wasn't there. But he had a legacy. He had a good legacy. So there was, it's a different way when you bury someone, and that's what that verse is talking about, is blessed, because his death was able to testify to anyone there. If they didn't believe God was real, he was a whole life. He lived a long time. I think he was in his 90s, and he had people speaking well of him even after all of that. And his wife had already died, so he's with her. But the best way to live a good life is to go ahead and write down what you want people to say about you after you die. This was an exercise that was taught to me when I was in high school, I think it was. And they actually gave us something that was shaped like a tombstone, and we had to write on it what would be our life verse or our life message. Now, my life verse is Job 23:10, which is, "For he knows the way that I take, and when he has tried me, I shall come forth pure as gold." That's what my heart wants. And the one thing I wanted on my tombstone was always faithful. I wanted people to say that no matter what she went through, no matter what kind of hard times she went through, no matter if she, lost her mind every now and then or whatever, went crazy on my, sometimes women, we get crazy unglued. We get, things happen. But she was always faithful. And that's what I want people to say about me, that I was faithful. Not perfect, but faithful. And that has helped me so much because I filter everything through that. I filter my decisions. I filter, how I'm running my business. I filter how I treat my contractors and my business dealings with people. All of that is filtered through that. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, what do I want people to say about me? In the 1800s, in the early 1900s, I think, they actually wrote the eulogies or the messages on tombstones. They etched them. If you go to these old, funeral places where they have these, you can etch them. My Uncle Larry does that. And you can etch these words. And I saw in a movie one time, the preacher said, "Well, what do you want on his tombstone?" And the preacher knew he had been terrible to her. He had been mean. And she said, "I want you to put down that he was mean and he was surly." Now, I had to look up what surly means, but basically it's just, cantankerous and you can't get right. And so that's what they did, because she said that's what's true. He was mean and he was surly. And I don't want people to say mean things about me when I'm gone. And, being a pastor's wife and Todd being a pastor, sometimes there were people we had to do funerals for that there was no evidence anywhere that they knew Jesus. And you can't preach someone into heaven. You can't put a blessing on them that allows them somehow to leave hell to go to heaven. That's not the way it works. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about your future. I want you to think about what do you want people to say about you. And the one thing at this funeral was the grandson got up, and he's the one that told some pretty awesome stories. Some were funny and some were really sweet. And, you know, when your family can speak well of you and say good things about you, that's a really good thing. So think about that. And, you know, if we can help you, if your life's kind of off the rails, I can't see, this sun's terrible. If your life is kind of off the rails and you'd like to kind of get back on track, we can help you with that. If you'd like to begin to build your funeral, you know, right now, your message, we can do that. You know, God says that He will restore the years that the locusts have eaten. But He can't do it without you wanting it. He's not going to remake your life. I get excited when someone comes in and say they've been addicted for a while or they've been mean, and they come in and their children are still small. I say, you know what? If you do this right, your little children may never know this you. And they may even be shocked if they hear your testimony. That's what we want. We want families to be so healthy. We want the adults to be so healthy that they can make healthy children into healthy adults. But we're failing a lot. I've heard terrible things spoken to children. I've heard terrible things spoken about children by their own parents. You know, life is just too short. We need to be kind. We need to be speaking blessings on our family. We need to be speaking blessings about our husbands, blessings about our wives. And we need to do this, and we need to take care of everything. So there was a car that came, so I had to stop for just a minute. But if you want to begin working on your legacy, we can help you. Go to our intake form at beautifullybrokencounseling.com and fill that intake form out. You can look around. We've got our book in there. We've got our hope page. We've got the dilemma book method, and just see what you need, see how we can help you, or you can call me at 615-332-4389. And another thing that you can do is, if you're worried about those around you and if they actually know Christ, then all you have to do is ask them their story. This is a trick. If you ask someone their story, if they begin to talk about Jesus very early on, then you know He's right there at the heart, and they are one of His godly ones. But if it takes them an hour and they don't even mention Jesus, then He's not. And so then you can begin maybe to make some inroads, talk about some things, say, well, what do you place your standards on? What are your beliefs? Don't try to impose them on someone else, yours. Just try to find out where they are. And if they are open to your story, then you can share. If they're not open, then pray for them. And if they're going through a hard time, you can even say, hey, can I pray for you? Most people will allow you to do that, even in a public place. So there are ways that we can reach people for God without being obnoxious and forceful. Ask people to talk about themselves, and you'll know very soon. So here is, for all of you godly ones, one day our deaths will be precious in the eyes of the Lord. And I'm going to show you, here's my little girl coming with the buggy. I just have to show you this. This cute. She did it.
$3 saved.
$3 saved. Wow. Okay.
I didn't even go all the way. There's two because I paid with cash for mine.
Okay, good job.
The shopping trip was easy. Hope you enjoyed this video and call this number for help. Bye!